Hello everyone and welcome. We are inside of the McLaren 570S Spider, and how about this crazy blue color? So let's go ahead and start it up and talk about how it goes. All right, press this active button. That puts it in manual shift mode. You can also do automatic mode with the active button, and you've got several selections to choose from. So handling and performance, you can put them in normal, sport, or track. I've got them both set in sport and manual shifting mode. Put it in first. Actually, these paddle shifters, they're connected. So when you move one in, the other goes out. When you pull the other one in, the other one goes out. Kind of cool. So this car is powered by a 3.8 liter twin turbocharged V8. Producing 563 horsepower, 443 pound-feet of torque, if my memory serves me correctly. There definitely is noticeable turbo lag. When you put your foot down, you wait a little bit, and then you are firmly planted back in your seat. It is quite cool. I mean, yes, the turbocharger exists, but it's not like the Nissan GT-R. It's definitely a little bit quicker to react than that. Though both of them, 3.8 liters. This is a V8, of course, not a V6. But actually, they may have similar turbo lag now that I really feel it. But this definitely sounds better than the Nissan GT-R. That has this kind of whiny drone to it. And this just has this nice... Yeah, V8s sound better. That's the story there. Now let's talk about convertibles. I used to not actually like convertibles. Before I had driven any of them, I just had this opinion that because convertibles, they remove the roof, and that sacrifices rigidity when you take off that roof, and so you have to add weight to compensate for the fact that you now have this loss of rigidity. The car is kind of this floppier shape because you don't have that roof holding everything together. Well, the really cool thing about this car is that even though the roof is completely retractable and it's a hardtop roof, it doesn't need any added structural rigidity because this is using a carbon fiber monocoque. So the chassis itself is already so rigid that you don't actually have to reinforce it when you go to the convertible. It's actually, really no less rigid, just as stiff. So you can get all those precise reactions out of the chassis and just worry about suspension tuning for the handling characteristics of the car. That carbon fiber monocoque only weighing 165 pounds, pretty crazy. So that's what's basically holding all this together. And then the body of the car is aluminum. So this actually does weigh 100 pounds more than the McLaren 570S, the hardtop, but that's really just gone into making this convertible hardtop work out. Up and down in 15 seconds, and it can be active up to 25 miles per hour. Quite nice. You also have this window which you can raise or lower for buffeting. If you want to get more of the exhaust noise, you can put that down. If you put it up, you can reduce the wind buffeting. Also gives you another storage space back there. If you put the top up and then raise the glass up, you can store a little bit more back there. Actually, the trunk, I've got a full-size carry-on suitcase up there. So a decent amount of storage, actually, the fact that you can stick that in there. So, it is a supercar. It's not going to be super practical. It's going to be super cool, though. Hence the super part. I just wanted to say super a bunch of times. Whoa! One of the things that's really cool is those 562 horsepowers. They're all sent through an open differential. McLaren is using an open differential with a 562 horsepower V8. And what they do is they use the brakes. So if one wheel starts to get out of hand, they brake it a little bit. And I kind of think of this as an inferior solution, but somehow it actually works with this, and it puts the power down so well. Traction control coming on there a little bit to prevent me from killing myself. But really impressive, what they're able to do, the fine-tuning they're able to do. It doesn't feel like, it's cutting you back. It did when I was on the track. So I did drive this on a track, and it felt like the traction control, not this one, it was actually a hardtop that I was driving, but it did feel like the traction control was holding me back. Here on a public road, where the limit is obviously much lower than on a track, you don't really feel it intervening. And that's really nice, that, you feel confident in it, but it's also wicked fast. There's definitely turbo lag, but my goodness, when you put your foot down, wow! Oh, and those brakes, that is incredible. Okay, so on how do these systems feel? The throttle, it's actually really cool. They've done a nice job with it. Even though it's turbocharged and has turbo lag, you definitely get very precise control with the throttle. So you give it 50%, you can still give it more and then accelerate more. You give it 75%, you get 75%. And finally, you give it 100% and you get 100%. And so I really like the way that they've controlled the throttle there. Really nice modulation to it, even though you have turbo lag, which is unique. There are definitely cars which you give it 50% and it feels like you're flooring it and you don't have much control. I really like the brake pedal. Not much treble at all, really just pressure sensitive. However much pressure you apply, that's how much braking you get. Very well matched with the car, what you think you should be applying. Really nice modulation of the brakes, very strong brakes, of course. Carbon ceramic, and just fantastic. Really well executed brakes. I don't think it hurts that I was driving the Jeep Trackhawk earlier today and it kind of felt like a sponge in the brakes, and this definitely has no sponginess to it. Kind of reminds me in a sense to the Alfa Romeo 4C, which I also really like the brakes. Really low travel in these cars with the brake pedal, which is cool and just completely pressure sensitive, which I really like. Okay, we've covered the throttle, we've covered the brakes. How's the steering feel? It is quite sharp. I mean, this car is low, very little roll, very precise, quick turn in, great control. As far as the weighting, honestly, it's fairly light. It's not a real heavy steering system, but it feels good because it matches exactly what you're asking it to do almost instantaneously, and you really can't ask for more than that. An interesting thing to note about the steering is that it's actually electrically and hydraulically assisted, and McLaren thought that this was kind of the best combination in order to, get the perfect amount of both effort as well as feedback. And I would say the effort end, it's a bit low. I might like it to be a little bit more, but on the feedback side, I really do like the system. I think they've done a really great job with the steering. Wow! Another thing that's really impressive is the speed of this transmission. Just lightning quick shifts. Especially when you're on the throttle and you're upshifting, really fast. On the brakes, downshifting, really fast. Wow. Tremendous response. That is awesome. So from a driving standpoint, dynamically, it's really doing everything you want from it. The throttle pedal matches what you ask of it. The brake pedal, short travel, very precise. The steering, super precise, very responsive, though a bit light, honestly. Not much weight to it. And then the transmission, just fantastically smooth shifts. It is turbocharged, and you definitely feel that it's turbocharged. From a performance standpoint, if anything, there are cars that eliminate turbo lag better. There are definitely cars that you don't wait quite as long. But once you're in that boost, wow, it is just so quick. so quick. And an open differential. This thing has an open differential. Something that you find in all, the cheapest sports cars that can't even wing it. Plenty of them are even throwing in limited slip differentials. Somehow McLaren has made it work. It doesn't feel lame. It doesn't feel like one tire is putting down all the power. You don't get that one tire fire. Chris Harris can still drift this car. All is well. Somehow they've figured it out, and it's very cool that they've done it. Very clever use of the brakes. When one wheel is starting to lose traction, just apply a little bit of brake pressure, let some extra torque go to the other wheel, balance it out, regain traction, and then let go of that brake, and just let all of those 562 horses hit the ground. So how about some performance numbers for the car? 0 to 60 in just 3.1 seconds in a rear-wheel drive car. That's pretty dang good. Top speed of 204 miles per hour, the exact same as the Coupe, which is really cool because often you get convertibles, you don't actually get to match the top speed of the Coupe, and in this one you do. Now that's with the hardtop up. If you put the hardtop down, you're going to be under 200 miles per hour for your top speed. But you can hit that 204 mile per hour top speed with the top up. So cool that they didn't sacrifice there. So 100 extra pounds, and you get to have, a more raw experience, a more visceral experience because you've got the exhaust. It doesn't feel slower. Honestly, it feels fantastic. A little bit of extra added weight, but I don't think it's noticeable. I think they've done a fantastic job. And if I had the money to buy a 570S, whether it was a Coupe or a Spider, I would certainly be going with the Spider. It's a really cool experience to have the top down, hear that exhaust loud in your face, and have the wind blowing in your hair, your gray hair, because if you can afford this, you're probably old and you have gray hair. Not that I'm old, but YouTube tells me that I'm somewhere between 20 and 65, and it turns out they are right. Something I've been pretty surprised by is the suspension of this vehicle, and it does have adaptive dampers, but what I've been most surprised by is honestly how comfortable this car is. I was in the GTR Nismo earlier today, and that car is super rough, super loud inside, and it's quite the contrast getting in this. Of course, I've got the top down, so the noise in here is high, purely because the top is down, but the ride quality is fantastic. And, bumps, things like that, it's not really that noticeable, and it doesn't feel supercar-like in that sense, which I really enjoy. Like, it feels very compliant and yet also very flat. So you don't have a ton of body roll. It's a very flat riding machine, but at the same time, this thing is actually comfortable to just cruise around in. You could actually go travel a long distance in this and not feel bad. You'd feel great by the end of your trip. It's quiet when you do have the roof up. It's a great all-around car, and it's really surprised me in that sense because I thought it was going to kind of be this brutal track weapon, and it's not at all. It definitely has the track weapon aspect to it, but it's also very comfortable, and that to me has been one of the biggest surprises about this. The doors are pretty neat. McLaren calls these dihedral, and you actually don't have to force it closed. You just kind of let it drop, and then it's got some motors in there and it'll close it for you. Of course, a bit complex, but very cool nonetheless. It looks pretty neat with both the doors up. And I do like this display up front. It's very video game-esque. I mean, it's all completely digital. You've got different readouts for coolant temperature, oil temperature, external temperature, how much fuel you've got left, what gear you're in, the engine RPM. But it looks like a video game, like the little corner display when you're playing Forza 7 or whatever it may be, Project Cars 2, since that's where I initially got to try the McLaren 570S. And man, when you put your foot down, it's like everything just melts past you, just flying at you. Whoa! Did you hear that snap? That pop, little fuel dumped out there. That was cool. It smells like lawnmower. It's definitely not this. It's probably someone's lawnmower. Or there's a Honda nearby. Sick burn. Traction control definitely intervenes. So I would imagine if you weren't in sport mode and you put it in track or perhaps turn off the traction control, this thing would be quite the animal to try and tame. Because, I'll be in third. 60, 70 miles an hour and traction control lights coming on saying, dude, back off the throttle. Ford Taurus. First car I drove, learned how to drive in a Ford Taurus. It was not good. It's crazy to think. 12 years ago, I was learning how to drive in an old 95 Ford Taurus. And 12 years later, how crazy is this? I get to be driving a McLaren 570S Spider on this epic back road. Beautiful day, gorgeous state of Oregon. This is awesome. This is truly awesome. So this is one of 8 cars I've been testing out this week as a part of the Automotive Video Association's Automotive Video Awards, and it will be competing for the performance car against those other 8 vehicles. Check out the Automotive Video Association. I'll include some links in the video description. But pretty cool. We've grouped together a bunch of automotive YouTubers, and we're getting together to determine which cars we think are the best. Thank you all for watching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. And now, a little bit more exhaust.